The Messenian Wars were a turning point for Sparta, transforming it from a typical Greek city-state into a military powerhouse. In the heart of the Peloponnese, the fertile lands of Messenia were a tempting prize for their neighbors, the Spartans. The subsequent wars for control of this territory would forever alter the trajectory of Spartan history. The Messenian Wars, as they came to be known, not only fortified Sparta's military prowess but also shaped its society in profound ways. Following the conquest of Messenia, the Spartans found themselves ruling over a large population of subjugated people. They needed a system to maintain control and order. Thus was born the helot system, a unique form of serfdom in the ancient world. The Messenians, stripped of their freedom, were transformed into helots, state-owned serfs tied to the land they once owned. Beneath the Spartan citizens in the social hierarchy, the helots outnumbered their masters by an estimated 7-to-1. This demographic imbalance led to a constant state of alertness in Sparta. The threat of a helot uprising was always looming, keeping the Spartans on their toes and reinforcing the necessity for a strong, well-disciplined military. This state of perpetual vigilance permeated all aspects of Spartan life. It influenced their laws, their customs, and their education. The Spartan way of life, or agoge, was designed to create the perfect warrior. From a tender age, Spartan boys were subjected to a rigorous training regime, honing their skills for the battlefield and instilling in them a deep-seated discipline and loyalty to Sparta. This was a society molded by the exigencies of war and the ongoing tension with their helot population. The Messenian Wars were more than just a series of conflicts over land. They were a crucible, forging a new kind of society in Sparta, one built on military might and a unique social order. The helot system, the agoge, the constant state of readiness, these were all direct outcomes of the wars with Messenia. These wars didn't just shape Spartan military might, but the very fabric of Spartan society itself. The First Messenian War, a brutal conflict, was the catalyst for massive societal change in Sparta. In the late 8th century BC, Sparta was a burgeoning city-state, its population growing, its lands fertile. Yet it was not sufficient to sustain the expanding Spartan populace. The neighboring region of Messenia, rich in resources and ripe for conquest, caught the Spartan eye. The pretext for the war was rather trivial. A Messenian man was accused of the murder of a Spartan, and tensions escalated rapidly. The Spartans, driven by a desire for expansion and the prospect of abundant resources, declared war on Messenia in around 740 BC. The conflict was protracted, lasting for 2 decades. The Spartans, known for their military prowess and discipline, were relentless in their pursuit of victory. The Messenians, however, were not easily subdued. They fought with a ferocity born of desperation, defending their homeland against the invaders. Key events punctuated this lengthy war. The Battle of Ampheia, for instance, was a decisive Spartan victory that significantly shifted the momentum of the war in their favor. The Messenians, despite their bravery, were ultimately unable to withstand the Spartan onslaught. A turning point came when the Messenian king, Aristodemus, in a tragic act of desperation, sacrificed his own daughter to appease the gods. Yet this did not change the war's course. The Spartans, with their superior military organization and strategy, finally emerged victorious, ending the First Messenian War in around 720 BC. The victory was not without consequence. The conquered Messenians became helots, essentially slaves bound to the land they once owned. This significant increase in the slave population was a double-edged sword for Sparta. On one hand, it provided the Spartans with a workforce to support their militaristic society. On the other, it gave rise to a constant threat of rebellion. With the end of the First Messenian War, Sparta found itself in control of a significant number of slaves, the helots. The Second Messenian War saw the helots rise in revolt, a testament to the tensions simmering beneath the surface in Spartan society. Let's delve into the Second Messenian War, a pivotal moment in Spartan history that took place around the 7th century BC. The helots, a subjugated people, were pushed to the brink and rose in revolt against their Spartan oppressors. But what sparked this uprising? The causes were many, but at the heart of it was the relentless oppression of the helots. The Spartans, in their quest for military supremacy, had reduced the Messenians to helots, a condition of servitude falling somewhere between slavery and serfdom. The helots were bound to the land, working it for their Spartan masters while retaining a small portion of the produce for themselves. But the indignity of their status, coupled with the harsh treatment by the Spartans, made the ground ripe for revolt. Key events of the war were marked by fierce and desperate battles. The helots, though outmatched in terms of military training and equipment, fought with a ferocity born of desperation. The Spartans, used to their disciplined phalanx formations, found themselves dealing with guerrilla warfare tactics, which made the conflict all the more brutal and protracted. The outcome, however, was a grim one for the helots. Despite their valiant efforts, the revolt was brutally suppressed by the Spartan military machine. The helots were returned to their servitude, their hopes of freedom crushed. But the war had a profound impact on Spartan society. The Second Messenian War further entrenched the helot system. The revolt demonstrated to the Spartans that the helots were a constant threat, a ticking time bomb that could explode at any moment. This led to a Spartan society constantly on edge, ever vigilant for signs of another helot uprising. The war also reinforced the idea that to maintain their power, the Spartans needed to remain a society of warriors, leading to further militarization of Spartan society. The Second Messenian War further entrenched the helot system, leading to a Spartan society constantly on edge. Post-Messenian Wars, the Spartan society was forever changed, living in constant fear of another helot revolt. This fear was not unfounded, given the sizable helot population living under Spartan rule. In fact, the helots outnumbered the Spartans significantly, which only amplified the Spartans' sense of unease. This fear of revolt led to a considerable shift in Spartan society. The Spartans, who were once renowned for their culture and arts, became a society obsessed with military prowess. The focus on the military was so intense that all aspects of Spartan life were dictated by it. Boys as young as 7 were taken from their families and enrolled into the agoge, a rigorous training program designed to forge the most formidable warriors. The agoge was no picnic. It was an unforgiving system that demanded physical toughness, mental fortitude, and absolute obedience. The boys, trained in all weather conditions, were given minimal food and clothing, and were taught to endure pain without complaint. This brutal training was designed to instill discipline, resilience, and above all, unwavering loyalty to Sparta. The Spartan women, although they did not serve in the military, were also subjected to a strict regime. They were expected to maintain peak physical condition to bear strong children for the state. The Spartan society became a well-oiled machine, solely focused on maintaining its military might. But why this obsession with the military, you might ask? The answer is simple. The Spartans lived in perpetual fear of a helot uprising. They believed that the only way to keep the helots in check was by demonstrating their superior military strength. This fear permeated every aspect of Spartan life, from their education system to their social structure. The helots were a constant reminder of the potential danger lurking within their own society. And so the Spartan society post-Messenian Wars was a society on edge, forever prepared for war, forever living in the shadow of a possible helot revolt. This way of life was a direct result of the Messenian Wars and the subsequent enslavement of the Messenians. The Spartan fear of their own slaves would dictate the future of their society. The Messenian Wars were more than just military conflicts. They were events that fundamentally altered Sparta. Spanning over several decades in the 7th and 8th centuries BC, the First and Second Messenian Wars were pivotal points in Spartan history. They were not merely battles for territory, they were catalysts that transformed the very fabric of Spartan society. The First Messenian War was initiated by the Spartans, compelled by the need to expand their agricultural lands to sustain a growing population. Victory resulted in the annexation of Messenian territories, and its populace was reduced to helots, a class of serfs tied to the land they once owned. Yet, the subjugation of the Messenians was far from smooth. The Second Messenian War was sparked by a helot revolt, a stark reminder that the conquered were not so easily silenced. Nevertheless, Sparta emerged victorious again, reinforcing its control over the Messenians. These wars, however, were not without their repercussions. The threat of another Messenian revolt was a specter that haunted Sparta, pushing it towards a relentless militarization. The helot system, though a boon to Spartan economy, was a double-edged sword. It freed Spartan citizens to devote themselves to military training, but it also necessitated a constant state of alert to suppress potential uprisings. This atmosphere of perpetual wariness seeped into every aspect of Spartan life. It influenced the Spartan education system, the agoge, which was designed to produce hardy warriors. It shaped Spartan laws, guided by the principles of Lycurgus, which dictated austerity and discipline. It even impacted their religious practices, which often involved sacrifices for victory in war. In essence, the Messenian Wars were the crucible in which the Spartan state was forged. They instigated the creation of a unique social structure, a relentless military focus, and a constant state of vigilance that defined the Spartan ethos. The echoes of the Messenian Wars reverberated throughout Spartan history, shaping it into the formidable military state we know today.